What do you need?
Sand that's there and some tape. It should be in that bag. Yeah, that's sand and then tape.
Wow, now I feel like a roadie. Yeah. Yes.
You're fine. If you need to walk in front of me, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Hey, okay, Scott. Thank you. Yep.
Sounds like fun to me. This is the funnest school board meeting I've ever been to.
Yeah. That time we had some excitement, right? That's how we had some excitement.
Welcome to the September 11th meeting. Going to, again, ask Mr. Billy in our meeting questions, and that will give the community, the public, a chance to ask questions about the topics that we discussed. I will let you know right now. Any other comments will be asked to be removed from the room. Okay. Something I'd like to do a little bit different today, is 9/11, the 23rd anniversary of that unfortunate day in our history. I'd like for all of us to rise, have a moment of silence, and then we'll do pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have two items today, one for finance and one for operations. Today we're going to have a presentation from James Doyle from PFN Financial Advisors to talk about the funding that we have to do over the next 3 to 4 years with the projects that we have been talking about for the last year or so. Mr. Taylor is going to talk in depth about where we are and where we stand with other neighboring school districts and how we look at our debt service. And I won't get into any more detail because I'm going to leave it to the experts. So, Mr. Taylor. Yes, so as Nelson said, this is kind of a follow-up to our presentation we did in April on debt service. We showed where we fit in Montgomery County compared to the districts. Typically, school districts have a debt service percentage of their operating budget between 8 to 12%. We say average is closer to about 10. I'll refer the expert for sure on that one. But when we did a comparison in April, we were at 7.22% for fiscal year 22. And even with these future borrowings and all the construction we're doing, long term, our run rate will still keep us in the low 7s or lower as we go forward. So it's still a very reasonable debt service compared to the other districts. The current presentation that Mr. Wills will present is based on the 3 upcoming projects we have slated to start next June, which is Indian Crest, South Hills, and West Broad, and then also the proposed multi-purpose turf field and turf softball field as well as high school that we'll hear about in the next presentation. All those numbers are based off of estimates that we have for those 3 projects. We're currently on pricing on Indian Crest. We're getting our numbers in October, November, December. The board will be getting those proposals for the projects, so we'll have exact numbers. But the process of borrowing debt does take a couple months of setting everything up. So this is starting at the stage. Nothing's finalized for sure. What we would be asking for is moving forward to start the first borrowing, right? But that won't happen until actually January. So there's time for the board to make adjustments as necessary. We have to go to a shift for reducing cost of these projects. And in the future, once anticipating the needs for completing all these projects. But really, all we're looking forward to tonight is getting the official board working on getting prepared for the first borrowing in January, and then we'll see from there. So I'll turn over to Ms. Doyle, and then we'll wrap up with questions.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. If you look at page number 2 of my handout, I always like to start off talking a little bit about market conditions and interest rates. And so start might look familiar to many of you. So this is 3 snapshots of the same tax-exempt index. You get to borrow at a lower tax-exempt interest rate as your school district. And what the top snapshot tells us, we're currently at the blue line. We're enjoying an inverted yield curve, which means it's the best of both worlds for the district. You're earning meaningful interest earnings on your investments if you're invested at short-term rates. So even the curve is higher than it's been in a long time. And then that may change next week after the Federal Reserve Committee meeting. We're going to talk about that as well. But then you see the blue line dips down a little bit, and then on the longer end of the curve, the rates that we should borrow, they're still below historic averages. So right now, it's a unique time. It hasn't been this way for many, many years, but you can invest at a rate greater than your borrowing rate. And we want to make sure we follow all of the tax law and rules so that you can keep that positive spread. middle snapshot, again, same index, just goes all the way back to 1993, so you can get a more historic perspective. And the bottom chart is just a focus in on the last full year, 2023 to present. And I focus on the lower right-hand corner. You see that dip down, that's what happened after the last Fed Reserve Committee meeting, when the market, cited maybe 0.5% decrease at the September meeting next week. And then it backed off a little bit in expectation of 0.25% decrease next week. The market on the borrowing side always tries to price in and anticipate what the Fed's going to do. And so that's what you're seeing in the lower right-hand corner. There's two schools of thought right now. There's still a lot of folks that think it'll be a 0.25% next week, and there's some that still think it'll be a 0.5%. So that remains to be seen. So if the Fed does in fact decrease next week, that means your short-term investment rates will go down, as will the borrowing rates, as the market tries to anticipate the Fed's next move going forward. If you turn to page 3, just a short summary, this is illustrating your actual 2024 borrowing, which you already completed, of $10 million, with additional borrowings up to $88.9 million, phased in steps, but beginning in calendar year 2025. That second section, as always, the IRS doesn't let us go borrow money at these attractive tax-exempt rates just because there's a constant spread. The key words are reasonable expectations. So you must have reasonable expectations. You can spend 85% of the borrowed proceeds within 3 years from settlement. That within 6 months from settlement, you plan to enter into a substantial binding obligation to spend at least 5% of the proceeds. Doesn't mean you have them spent, it means you plan to enter into a contract. And then the third part of that test is just if you proceed with due diligence on the projects that you embark on. Number 3, bank qualified considerations. Bank qualified is an even lower tax exempt rate. And that's a strategy we've used here at the school district for many years. So your 2024 borrowing, which you already did, was less than $10 million, and you got those bank qualified rates in primary health insurance. Based on the draw schedule that we're going to look at in a minute, it doesn't look like your 2025 borrowing is going to be bank qualified. But we'll work in DQ issues if and when your cash flow needs allow. Number 4, reimbursement resolutions, just a reminder, those are always available if you need to front some of your reserves to pay early costs and if you want to preserve the legal right to reimburse yourself from a future borrowing. And then that last section, we haven't had to talk about this, section 5, for a really long time. Again, it really has that positive spread or difference between the borrowing rate and the investment rate being higher. So again, as long as there is a positive spread, we want to make sure you can include it. And so we would be looking for this next borrowing that would be greater than the $15 million exception that you get for small issuer. We would be looking at a 24-month spend-down exception. So what that means is there's 4 benchmarks, and you need to hit every one of them in order to keep that positive difference I keep referring to. Which is 10% expenditures within 6 months from settlement, 45% within 12 months, 75% within 18 months, and 100% within 24 months. And again, you have to hit each and every one. If you miss one, then what that means is you have to rebate anything above and beyond the borrowing rate that you earn the IRS. So we're going to do everything we can and plan accordingly so that you can keep those earnings. If you look at page 4, you'll see your existing debt portfolio. So if you did nothing new, you would continue to make the payments on page 4. The top half is gross debt service, meaning principal and interest on each of your various issues. The bottom half is your local share, because you're still receiving some old grandfather plan con reimbursement from the state on your 3 oldest issues. You can tell by that line at the bottom that says PE percentage. If there's a percentage on that line, it means you're getting that percent of the issue reimbursed. That gets multiplied by your capital account reimbursement fraction, which is 2 more lines down, and that would be the effective reimbursement on each of the payments you made. So that state reimbursement is netted out, and column 18 is the important column on this page. So you can see you have a very attractive column 18. In the current year's budget, and this number is down from last year, even your local share of the debt is about $10.47 million, rounding up slightly. And you can see it drops down next fiscal year to about $6.3 million. So that drop-off, we can utilize the wraparound structure that, again, the district's been utilizing for many, many years in order to pledge those freed up dollars in 2025 and beyond for new debt service to keep your debt level or declining over the life, which is a requirement of state law. And as always, we monitor page 4 for financing opportunities at all times. But again, the good news and the bad news is you have really, really low interest rates in your debt portfolio, so no opportunities at this time. If you look at page 5, you'll see the draw schedule based on the most up-to-date draws that we've received for your various projects. You can see your projects are in columns 4 through 8, with the 3 major projects really beginning in the end of 2024. And you can see that calls for bond issues in column 11. You see the $10 million you already did in earlier this calendar year. And as you look down column 11, you can see weekly cash flows. Your next issue in 2025 needs to be about $42.5 million. And again, there's still time to tweak this as you make additional decisions here over the next couple of months, but at the moment, that's what we'd be looking at. So that's a non-qualified interest rate, it's more than $10 million, and that's why we need to meet those spend down benchmarks, because it's more than the $15 million threshold for smaller transactions. And then we'll be back to have the same discussions again for 2026 borrowing. I won't belabor that tonight, because I'm sure this will change and get updated before we get to that point. And then out in 2027, you see, based on this schedule, I think you can carve off another bank qualified borrowing of just under $10 million. If you turn to page 6, you'll see what all of that looks like if we issued those amounts of bonds on those dates in those calendar years. And so, again, column 7 is if you did nothing new, and you can see in the prior fiscal year, your local output was $11.2 million. It dropped down a little bit this year, and again, the wraparound structure is what we used in 2024. So the green column is what we did already, $10 million to 2024. And you can see in column 8, the payments start off smaller until your drop-off occurs in column 7, and then you fill in with larger payments, and it's the wraparound, wrapping new debt around the whole thing. So what we're really talking about this evening is the red column, that roughly $42.5 million borrowing. And again, the wrap structure, so as you look at my conservative estimate in column 10 of what that might look like, you can see the payments start off smaller up front, and then once we get out to 2037, the payments ramp up in conjunction with that drop off in your debt service. So again, we must have overall level or decline. And then we come back, discuss 2026 in the purple and 2027 in the blue, and tweak those accordingly based on how your projects have gone, how the bids have come in, how your contingency is held up, all of those things would be included in those updates. So at the end of the day, you can see out there in column 15, you'd be level at roughly $10.7 million through and including 2047, and first drop-off would occur in fiscal year 2048. If you look at page 7, there's a sample motion for your consideration if or when you'd like to proceed with this next step of borrowing. It specifically references $42.5 million, and that should be tweaked accordingly. The sample timeline is the bottom of page 7, and this timeline is very similar to what you did last year. We had these conversations, we got the paperwork in order, and you were one of the first bond sales out of the gate in the new year, and that served you very, very well. Because the bond market really sort of slows down in December, especially the last 2 weeks of December. And then in the beginning of the new year, bond buyers and investors come back and they have increased appetite because nothing happened prior to 2 weeks. So tonight's financing discussion, September 26th or later would be the earliest you could consider the motion above, if you so choose. We could be back, if you'd like, at your October 24th voting meeting with the parameters resolution. If we need a committee update, we penciled in December 11th for your committee meeting date, and then that would get everything in order for an early January competitive internet auction, and that would meaning the settlement would be early February, roughly 35 days later is when the proceeds would show up in the construction fund. So I know that was a lot of information. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time, but you're very well positioned, and you have a lot of flexibility and ability to do projects of this magnitude.
I want to jump in real quick and really explain what Chris has really said. So come December, we're going to know the pricing of the projects for the rest, South Hills and West Florida. So we'll have a better final cost to know, do we do just our borrowings and all. Also, we'll have a more refined cost schedule. So this is proposed, the current proposal is for the earliest things that construction is finally going to happen, which would necessitate what we borrow right now, which is demonstrated. So realistically, the first borrowing could be less if the process is revised, prices come down. So in the event that there is a major change, we can come back to the committee in December and share those updates. And we could even start this process now, still relying on borrowing limited less than what we currently say before January 1. So we can start the process. We can't borrow more than what you're suggesting now. We can likely revise it by January if numbers change. Also, just to get a call and talk about real quick. We're talking about the process for this first borrowing in 25. Like I said, the projections are based on what we have right now, financial markets. So like I said, we'll have the approvals before and by December for the projects. And just once they put it in perspective, our long-term debt service run rate would be 10.7 at this high conservative number right now. If you look at 22-23, our budget for debt service was 1.4 million, went up to 12.1. This year it's 11.2. So as you see, it's still less than what we've been used to the last couple of years, even with doing these major projects. So that's a good thing. And as far as that, when we're talking about the percentage of your operating budget in debt service, that would put us in the low 7% as a forward, which once again keeps us quite below the average that we see throughout the state. So a very comfortable run rate of that, for sure. So, question from the board?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. And as always, over the years that I've been here, the presentations are very thorough. And we all don't like borrowing money, but we do like keeping our facilities in good standing. So these are necessary evils that we do have. I'm going to save my questions to the end, let everybody else get their questions out. So,
Nice job, Mike. I don't really have any questions right now.
Yeah, I do. Thank you both. And Jamie, I think I heard you say that we can invest at a rate greater than the borrowing rate, and that's an ideal situation. So could you just explain what created that situation? And obviously we want to take advantage of that.
Sure, so it's the shape of that yield curve on page number 2. But right now, investment rates, if you're fairly liquid, are about 5.4%, and could change next week, but that's where they are right now. And borrowing rates are in the low 4%. So, there's a 1+% positive difference in your favor right now.
And to jump on that real quick, we've been working with our banking partner services. We did those bond issues as they started rising to take advantage of the higher rates. And we've generated over $1 million of interest earnings on the prior issuances, which has gone into those bonds or accounts, which has actually reduced the need to borrow more. So we're able to borrow $1 million less than we would have to because we have generated a lot of interest already. So they're starting to take that into account and in fact to reduce future borrowings based on the returns we've already received.
And that's a good point. I would just point out on page number 5 on that draw schedule, I sort of skipped over column 12. But we're being conservative in column 12. So based on borrowing money in these amounts at these times and the draws that you see in column 4 through 8, you can see even if you were only earning 3.5% on your investments, that's a pretty meaningful number. That's almost $1,650,000 over the life of these construction projects. So we're using those interest earnings to downsize borrowings that you see here. So to the extent that you earn more than 3.5%, we'll just continue to downsize.
Okay, thank you. And just, I guess it goes without saying that the estimates are based on stable conditions, right? So if anything were to change drastically, this schedule, that amortization schedule will have to change. Yes.
Just a little joke here. First of all, we're So, yeah, we're not borrowing for those yet, but obviously we're preparing for the 5 to 7 years. There's going to be some roofs and HVAC projects. We're working with our roofing consultants, our HVAC consultants, identifying what buildings are likely to need repairs and upgrades, either based on time or condition currently themselves. And it's something we're aware of, and once again, yeah, in 5 to 7 years, we need to a little bit more, and that is factoring in the ability to do some future budgeting 5-year forecast.
Yeah, this doesn't take much.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Jim, but I mean, taking something that's so complicated and make it so simple, and make it like so, you know, we can see it and really understand it. It's just, I don't know how you do it. You know, it's again, like, what Jeff was saying, it seems like it's a comfortable time to really start putting these together as you're, you know, doing these construction projects. What was the timeline again? I'm sure it's here somewhere, but if you make these take these loans out, how long do you have before you get put pen and paper? To sign the contracts, to that 5%, I think it was?
So yes, the reasonable expectations test, 6 months from settlement, that you reasonably expect to enter into a binding contract to spend at least 5%. So, you know, if we settle in February, you have 6 months in February.
Excellent job.
Yes, thank you. Very good presentation. I appreciate it. And I don't have any questions. I just think the amount of work that goes into kind of laying this out makes it evident how important it is to kind of manage that debt service year over year and plan this way out so that debt service stays consistent and you have the money to fund the project. So great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing I was going to ask, if the Fed fund does make the rate change next week, would you give us adjusted numbers based on?
It depends how much they, yes, we could do adjusted numbers, so it depends how much they change.
Okay.
At least on this next step, I probably wouldn't adjust them on 2026 and 2027, because they're much further away. But yes, we could update that on the 2025.
All right, we'll just keep an eye on it next week. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, maybe the numbers when we get them tighter, we'll really get down the conversation. The lenders, to construction, are they anticipating what that's going to be now, or quarter, half, a third, thing?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much what we see on the
Yes,
street?
exactly.
How much variability, quarter point, is everybody leaning toward the half, what's that?
I'd say 2/3 of the market participants think it's a quarter and 1/3 think it's a half right now.
Not going with that right now, I guess.
Usually lenders are too I would guess at least a quarter.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this has been a long time coming. You were supposed to cut 4 times in calendar year 2023, we got 0. You were supposed to cut 4 times in calendar year 2024, and we'll go for the first one's coming next week.
Good day. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Jamie, great presentation. No more questions, just I'm amazed how over the years, no matter what the economy is doing, you seem to always bring us a very positive proposal and how to move forward. So I just thank you for that. Great job.
Thank you.
Public, any questions? Comments? Okay, so we have to move this forward for the next meeting. Let's move this forward.
I know you can.
Welcome to Operations Committee. There's really one item tonight on the agenda. It was about the multi-purpose field. And I will go to Mr. Bill.
All right, we have Bill Bamberg here for field turf, and then Joe Collins here from Musco to give price and proposal for the field. You see the displays that are showing the drawings of the fields, and you got the market purchasing agreement pricing available for review, and then I'll let them take it. I'll just go this PowerPoint real quick. All right, if you want to. So we'll start first with Bill Bamberg with a presentation on the field and the construction, and then Andrew from Musco will talk about the LED lighting.
Thank you for inviting me in. My name is Bill Bamberg, field turf. I've been with field turf for 20 years now. We were lucky enough to work with the district when we were fixing the football stadium several years ago. So I'm familiar with the campus facility and also the folks in the facilities department. Field Turf is the largest synthetic turf company in the world. We're the largest manufacturer and installer of synthetic turf. We have over 25,000 installations worldwide. Many of them built over here. North School High School has a softball and baseball field similar to the project that you're looking at this point. From White Marsh, right down the road, the baseball field, the football stadium, and also the Rotary field. While we're the largest in the world, that doesn't mean that we're too big to handle customers. Right? We're all local. They let us run our region as if it's our own personal business. You get dedicated local service and you enter the project field turf. You get a dedicated project manager. His name is Cody Whittle. He lives in the Williamsport area. He will be on site for the project on a weekly basis. He's a certified engineer, so he can handle any issue that we may incur trying to do the project. Dedicated project manager would be Brad. He lives in right up the road in Potsdam. He'll be on site every day, and then he'll interact with me for 5 meetings. Leaders in manufacturing. In this business, 25 years ago, no one manufactured their own product. So we built a $500 million plant down in Calhoun, Georgia. We manufacture all of the guns. So there's no finger pointing, we don't buy from third parties. Everything from the fibers, the backing, the manufacturing, the coatings, all come from in-house. When it comes to baseball and softball, they're very specific sports for the surface. So what we did was we went to Penn State University about 3 years ago. They have the nicest baseball field in the NCAA and probably nicer than any major league baseball field. It doesn't get a lot of usage. So we did balls, about 3,000 balls on their surfaces, both on the grass and on the clay, so we can replicate what is exactly going to be there for a natural grass field and the clay surfaces. For softball, we brought in Jessica Mendoza. I don't know if anyone knows who Jessica Mendoza is. She is on the United States Olympic softball team. She's in the U.S. Softball Hall of Fame. She designed our softball product, so it is top notch. This is a conceptual drawing of what is going to happen here coming into the main entrance on our campus, so this project is going to be very visible. This is a different angle. The fields are going to be multi-sport in the outfield for baseball, so you can use it for additional sports rather than just playing on sport line. The mechanism for purchasing is the Keystone Purchasing Network. This was bid on a state and national level. We were awarded the contract back in 2004. We just got an update and a renewal as of 2 months ago, and we had this contract for 3 more years. This is a proposal. This encompasses everything you see other than the lighting which Andrew will speak about next. Everything from excavation, fencing, dugouts, the synthetic turf, any amenities, walkway passages from your parking lot to the fields. This is some product details. If you want to get into the weeds with this during the question and answer session, we'd be happy to do that. But basically, you're getting a level softball and baseball product. And I'll turn it over to Andrew for the lighting.
everyone. Thanks again for having us, and more importantly, thank you for considering us for the project. My name is Andrew O'Connell. I'm with Moscow Sports Lane. I've had the opportunity of working in the sports construction industry for over 5 years. I covered an area of the whole Northeast where I've seen a lot of field and athletic facilities, working alongside Bill and his company for many years, but more specifically, the last 2 years I've worked with Moscow Sports Lighting, providing LED sports lighting solutions in eastern Pennsylvania. Moscow is crazy to think we're about to be 50 years for doing this. 1976 is when we got our start. So that's installing everything from your local Little League all the way up to the most recent Olympic Games. Everything's made in America for us, which is really hard to come by these days, especially for LED. So everything's shipping out of Iowa, where our corporate and manufacturing plants are coming from. It's a 2-day ship from Iowa to Souderton. So you know where materials being made, you know where it's coming from, so we have full quality control on that. I'm locally here in Lakeville, locally here in Delaware County, so I'm nearby as well to be accessible throughout the project. What I wanted to do tonight was just be real short and brief and give you guys an idea of the advancement in technology, as well as what these fields may look like for you. When someone thinks of Moscow, when you ask them what's been their experience with Moscow, they're likely to tell you from a warranty standpoint, they're really, really good at what they do. Industry-leading warranty, as well as spill and layer control. And I'm going to throw out a couple buzzwords tonight, like spill and layer, as well as foot candles. That just quickly define so we're all on the same page and continue to repeat those. So when I say spill, that's essentially your lights are on, your fixtures are turned on. All that light that's spilling off the field itself, say onto your spectator area, your bleachers, concession stands, nearby properties, that's what we would define as spill. Now, glare, when you look up at the light itself, with whether it's a 60, 70, 80-foot pole, looking at that top row of fixtures, that's what you're experiencing. So when you try to blink away that light from looking at that light and prevent that from happening, that's what glare is. And then lastly, foot candles is how we're measuring the amount of light on your field and off of your field. Same concept, we're measuring distance in miles, yards, and feet. What I have here is really a timeline, and it takes you from where we started to where we're at now. Right there on that left side, that picture under 1977, again, when we first started, is what's called a metal halide fixture. So that's an HID fixture. I refer to it as a glorified flood. And it's doing just that. It's flooding as much light as possible out into an open area as we can with minimal spill and layer control. So when we start working, and we had some experience, we figured out a way to adjust that fixture a bit. We figured out ways from an efficiency standpoint to get 25% more light onto the field, and also you can see we made some alterations in that fixture to the right to control that spill and layer just a tad bit more. Then enter in the visor. Some people refer to Moscow's technology as a shielded visor, a shield. It goes hand in hand, but that's what introduced spill and layer control for us. That allowed us to really control the light and cut it off. That light we need to be here and not here in someone's property. That entered into what we now have that far right is your TLC for LED, total light control. That is our LED fixture. We still have plenty of HID product out in the field that has tons and tons of warranty left. But at this point, all we do provide and install is an LED fixture. This is a great demonstration. So we actually took a collection of 50-foot poles, all of our technology from when we first started to where we're at currently today. That fixture, or that setup on your left-hand side, that is 5 1,500-watt metal halide fixtures. Now, all of these, light level-wise, are taking at the same distance, and we're providing the same amount of light below that pole on that field. So we work our way from left to right. Today, our Muscle LED system is outputting the same amount of light that 5 1,500-watt fixtures did with 2 1,200-watt LED fixtures. So from when you think of LEDs as a hot topic, energy efficient, that's certainly a plus. You're taking 5 1,500-watt fixtures, dropping that down to 2 1,200-watt fixtures. So there's certainly an energy savings there. But I think the bigger plus here is when we look at Musco's technology, those 2 fixtures are on right now. If I didn't tell you there was 2 fixtures up there, it would be very difficult to see the quantity of fixtures. And that goes into our shielded visor and our technology. We want to shield the source of light, prevent it from capturing or bleeding into the night sky and then your neighboring properties. On that far right there, that's a common LED floodlight fixture we see in the market that a lot of our competitors are using. Efficiency-wise, they're still using 2 fixtures just like us, but you can see you're spending LED dollars and getting glare from the 1970s still. So I mentioned TLC, that's short for total light control. That's the system we're proposing for you guys out at your softball and baseball field. At Musco, we're not necessarily a parts and piece company. We provide everything as a system. So that's starting with the precast concrete base. That's all site specific. So you take your soils and your geotech reports and design a foundation design for your site specifically. On that precast base, and we put a galvanized steel pole that slip fits over the base. And here's the important part. That enclosure on that pole is very easy to identify if it's a Musco field or not. We'll have our logo 10 feet above grade. Within that enclosure, you're going to have all the ducts and the brains that are powering up and telling these LED fixtures what to do. So you'll be able to remotely schedule these fixtures on and off. You won't need to be on site to do that. And you'll also be able to tell them to dim from high, medium, or low. That's usually like 100% output down to 50, down to 20. A lot of times people will use the full output for your actual sports that are being played. If you have a community night, you don't need the full output, so you can send those down to maybe 50 or 20, or if they're band practice, lowering them that way. That's important because all of those electrical components that are 10 feet above grade are typically other LED manufacturers or even some of the older HID products. We'll put that at the top of the pole. Your shortest pole out here, we're proposing is 60 feet. Your tallest pole is 80 feet. So you imagine if you're going to do your maintenance and warranty work up at the top of the pole, that requires a lift as opposed to a step ladder. That lift is costly, and it can damage your turf, it can damage your site, and we want to avoid having to go to the top of the pole. So that's why we in-house everything 10 feet above grade in that enclosure. And then we put a wire harness in there. So I'm having these lights installed for you guys for the last 50 plus years. I'm going to have wires exposed out in the elements, flapping around in the wind. And lastly, the piece you see here is going to be the fixtures itself. So everything's pre-aimed, shipped out of Iowa that way, so our contractors cannot touch the aiming angles. We presented you guys with lighting designs, and those lighting designs, all this equipment is warranted for 25 years with parts and labor, but so is the light levels on the field. So we got to make sure we're controlling that before it goes out to Souderton to be installed. Additionally, you'll have your warranty that's covered for the parts and pieces, but you also have the light levels that are covered in the control aspect, which I got into and touched on a little bit. So at Musco, we view it as a proactive warranty. Our systems do not have to be on for us to be communicating with them back in Iowa. So 365 days a year, 24/7, we have folks in what is called our control link department sending signals out to your system. Your system will not need to be powered up to do this. And why we want to do that is, so say you guys have softball game Thursday night. Frank's not turning on his lights until Thursday night, but on Monday I send a signal to your pole light one, and I noticed there was a fixture that was out. I call Frank and say, hey, can you please check fusing at 10 feet above grade? We give you a replacement fuse, or maybe it's a trip break. If it's not, then it's on us to fix it for you guys. The last thing I want to happen is have that call happen Thursday right before the game starts. That feature really gives you that. The controls and monitoring allows us to constantly ping those fixtures and drivers to be proactive. This is just a quick demonstration on field level, what it looks like. That's a Musco field similar to your ball fields. And then obviously that's a floodlight LED fixture. So the light levels are going to be roughly the same when you look at the field. It's just not so pleasant looking up into an unshielded fixture lacking a visor or glare control. This is also good to see because we care about obviously the players. The spectators, we want to have an enjoyable and pleasurable experience watching their kids or their family or friends play. And it's also, too, your neighbors. You do have some close neighbors on that property line. I'd rather have them look at that field on the left than the field on the right and have some complaints, most likely. So we've been fortunate enough at Musco, I think you could take HID and LED, we're somewhere in the thousands throughout Pennsylvania, but more specifically in your county, there's 100 plus fields, so you're likely, whether your kids, your family, or friends have played under a Musco field driven by or seen one. And then more recently, some of the LED fields are listed below. So this is a component of the lighting design we put together for your actual site. It's a combination of your softball, baseball, and multi-purpose field. You have a total of 14 poles, your shortest pole being 60 feet, the tallest pole being 80 feet, and a total of 88 fixtures. You will have the capability to turn everything on at once, and also each individual field on at once, should you not have a baseball field lane going on when the softball field is playing. You also have walkway lighting. You can see that pink line connecting both fields and all the way up to your parking lot. We do that as a security light, so it's a lower light level. And the interesting thing, too, about your design here, we're working with GLA Sport and your township engineer. They requested that this design be IDA compliant. What that means, International Dark Skies. That is the strictest governing body in light. It's very difficult to get a design approved for that, and you'll be one of the few high schools in the Northeast to have that. What does that mean to you? From a player safety and performance standpoint, it's above and beyond what we would usually like. But also, are you being a friendly neighbor? Absolutely. The IDA will not approve a design if you are not protecting your neighbors. And in this case, you have neighbors pretty close to your fields. You can see that blue contour line. It's essentially a connect the dots scenario. So we're connecting each dot where you see a 0-foot candle where that light cuts off. So if I were to take a drone out there when this is fully installed, that light is going to stop right at that blue line, and it will go from, say, 1 to 0-foot candles very, very quickly. I have a few images of what you can expect out on the fields. This is a good depiction of storm glare control with some nearby properties. You can't tell besides a couple of the porch lights being on in that far left corner, but those are houses behind that tree line that we've done a good job of not affecting them when the full system is operational. This one I like to throw in there because this gives an idea of what the spectators are going to see. Your players are going to see one thing and perform under the lights in one way or another, but your spectators have different viewing angles. So this is a good one to consider what the spectators will have for both fields. This is what we call a 150-foot cutoff. This is 150 feet standing at grade on the field. It just goes to show really the significant cutoff we have as soon as that light ends on the field. And similar to what we were just talking about, the blue contour line. When I go up there, it's essentially a blue contour line for this. Would be a whole circle around 84 ball field right here. Just to show really the cutoff we have. In this particular picture, there are no neighbors there, but if there were neighbors in very similar fields all over the state like that, we'd be protecting them, and I'm sure they wouldn't be too upset with the system and the spillage or lack thereof. So for us, really next steps, and then I can take questions. Like Bill, we are 2 members of a cooperative. We price this out through CoStar, state contract. And for us, we went out to a couple local contractors to see where the market for the install was. And we got an install back from a contractor who was low and also someone that had done 50-plus muscular jobs. So we're very confident with his installation number. This is a large job, and timing is very, very crucial, especially when you have that much earth moving around in the turf fields. We always are concerned about making sure that we figure out the sequence of who is in first and who is in last. The last thing I want to do is build him out, and I don't want to be built out either, because that's not built into our price. So we need to be very careful if you guys are wanting this to be done in the spring, before spring sports. Very careful on who goes in first and getting it done all at the same time. But for us, there is a scope of work that's a little more lengthy than a typical installation. We have to bring in a whole new PPL service. So there's a process to do that. We got to auger anywhere from 10 to 14 feet in the ground for 14 holes. And we got to get a crane out here, a lift out here. So very, very heavy equipment and machinery that needs to be done, so we're not in the way of those folks as well.
All right, question from the board.
Before Carl, the question, this part of the plan will be a little game changer for us. It will accommodate so many different sports. Right now, our athletic teams are competing for field space with each other, and that's sometimes really difficult. If you are highly recommending this, excited to be here tonight, and we would also recommend the lighting piece too. I just wanted to say that this really is a great opportunity for us to grow that campus and bring baseball back, of course. But this is not just baseball field, this is a multi-purpose field. And I correct people when they say baseball field, it's multi-purpose. So with that, Mr. Brown, administration does recommend this, and I know there's any questions.
So this is just capping off what we've discussed over like the last year and a half, moving this forward, going through the zoning, the testing of the soils and everything else. I'm going to go last. I'll go down to the board if I get your, so.
Very impressive. I think it's an excellent lighting system. I even focus it where we need it with fewer fixtures. I'm very supportive of the project as well. I don't have any specific questions for you, but good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. The lighting aspect of this is newer, more on the tail end of bringing this in. Very impressive. The technology that's gone into it, it's, and the descriptions that you had up there, it's actually very impressive. The only question I have, you mentioned putting in the stands, all running 15 feet deep. You're aware of the rock?
Yes, yeah, so that's something that geotechs will show that. A lot of guys will hit rock. If we run into rock, there will be additional rock charges. I would say 3 out of 10 jobs throughout the state will run into rock, and our contractor is very familiar with bringing in the right equipment to drill through that rock. You may not get it done 2 holes in a day like you used to, and then take them a day to get a hole done. You've got to sit there and go consistently through the same piece of rock.
Okay, it's, yeah, I don't know if,
It's going to bring in different engineers that versus trying to drill down, which we do it just a larger base, because you're not going to keep drilling down to the 50 feet of granite we have up here. So you have engineers on board that can change your footing design.
So our footing design is dependent upon, and it goes into the warranty being 25 years. It's a precast base. So it's backfilled with concrete when it's dropped in the ground, and the top grade is finished with the earth and the soils that were removed. So we did have an in-house Pennsylvania certified engineer look at this and stamp the designs for us based off of your geotech report. We're very confident in what we can provide with the information, and it wouldn't be the first time we ran into a site like this.
Okay, it's on your proposal, sorry, there is no rock cost, there's no additional cost.
Yeah, and why that is because you can't anticipate how long you sit on a hole, how many drill bits you'll go through. Typically, people will say if it's a 30-inch or 36 diameter hole, it's anywhere from $500 to $600 an hour.
Well, knowing the geotechnical report, you know how hard you hit rock. I mean, I would definitely say that you need to have some kind of estimate of what this is going to cost, because you have the geotechnical report out there for rough digs. I'm just not going to go blind and determine I'm going to have $1 million more for the rock cost.
I don't think I've ever seen a rock cost get that high, but what I will say is it's very difficult for us to anticipate where we're hitting rock because those borings, those samples are taken in different places where our holes are. I know the idea of spending a lot of time on rock in these areas, but we can rock on 1,000 fields this year. It may take a day or 2 extra, but it's not a substantial cost where you're spending an additional 6 figures. From a foundation level, if we get refusal, we just go to a different location and start drilling again. But the equipment we bring in here is pretty hefty, and we'll usually drill right through that.
no, it's okay. You went the same direction I went to, so. I know that it's difficult to do that, because you don't know what you're going to encounter. But if we can get, at some point in the very near future, a range, just ballpark it, that would be most helpful.
I can certainly provide per hour.
Yeah, and if you maybe look at, give me some information on, like, the worst you've seen in Pennsylvania, sort of the higher estimate once that's gone over. And like, let's just say we assume we did on every single one, it's 10 feet of rock and drill through a rough estimate without a cost of an actual worst case scenario. So we can, use the words to see if we hit the absolute worst case scenario, what it would look like, just so we're prepared for, if it's $10,000 or $100,000, what would be kind of the worst expectation. So I think right now, I think that's the terms, we're going to do about worst potential.
Yeah, I wish I had a number for you, it's all hypothetical, but I can certainly say, we're gonna hit every hole, and this is what you get the plan, so.
Well, once you do your layout, you go out and test orders at each location, and you know the depth of the rock and what you're hitting. I mean, it's not rocket science, just because you're going to lay out, but I just need to cover our costs, that's all.
The 25-year warranty, that covers everything from bottom of the pole to the top of the pole.
That's correct, that's both parts and labor, so how that warranty system works, obviously, we keep the system in order, you'll still be able to turn this on and off manually on site. Most people like to keep it in auto, so you can schedule your needs out weeks in advance. The auto feature also allows us to stay proactive and see if there's things running smoothly and catch before it's an issue for your game. But let's just say hypothetically there is an outage on a fixture or two. When we get alerted from Frank or someone from the school or the district to call us, whoever can get to it quicker, whether it's a contractor we hire or the muscular tech to fix it, we'll pay either or to get it done. That includes all the lift, the equipment, the rentals. There's no expenses for you guys if there is any outages. That covers everything else from the base to the whole top fixture itself and all the control packages.
All right, great. One last thing, and then I'll let you move on. You mentioned bringing in the PP&L service. So is that going to require a panel out in the field somewhere, or how is that supplied?
That's correct. So we're coming off one of your poles out by the street. We're going to have to run around roughly 2,000 linear feet. We'll have a new 200 amp panel out there. We'll be feeding this 14 sports light poles.
Yeah, that's all I have for now. As far as the field, we've been talking about this for quite a while. Great presentation, so I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great presentation. I'm not a contractor. I love contracting. I'm probably oversimplifying. So great presentation. But from shovel to ground to us using it, how much time will that take?
Right, for the field itself, the space is starting to go through where we can get the proper permitting and underlying agreement. So the field will be ready for spring sports.
With a shovel and ground in October or approval in October?
So all the coordination with ELA and field service and manufacturing and everything is, if we get the approval on the 26th, we're expecting the final approvals from the county conservation committee by the end of the month as well. We already got the preliminary final approval from the township, so the goal would be to have shovels in the ground October 7th.
We've been lucky in the last 4 or 5 winters, we've been able to work straight through. We just,
Way to go. Way to go.
So one of the things is quality and durability, and like I said, without me having any knowledge of this, so if I consider Go Phillies baseball team being a 10, as far as quality and durability, where does that fit into a sliding scale from a 10?
this synthetic surface is a 10.
Thank you. No more questions.
So with the lighting, that's the warranty issue. So on the technology, these things we've changed a lot in 25 years. So let's say that 5 years from now we have an issue and these lights do need to be replaced. Are you going to replace them with the current generation that we purchased originally, or are you going to basically replace them with whatever your latest and greatest is at that particular time?
With the current technology, I can tell you, we're pretty much maxed out on what we can do from a technology standpoint. And in 20 years, we're going to do something that's even cooler than LED. But we would stack all the components. So it's very similar to all our Asian new fields don't get HID, but we still service and replace and reland anytime. So, yeah, if there is any type of future enhancements, which I'm sure we're working on it, the system that we install through life and warranty and replace with the driver, fixture, and harness for what we additionally install.
And as far as, just go with the worst case scenario for the whole, just make sure we get our hands on that. Just the worst case scenario. You know, so anyone who's tried to do around here knows that it's next to impossible. So if you guys could figure that out, I know I've had friends who try to have pools installed and it's costing tens of thousands of dollars when they thought it was, we're talking a lot of holes, so that could add up pretty quickly from $500 out in one hole a day. The lighting, so the hood, they seem to just be like reflectors basically, right? Is that kind of what it is? The LED shines and it just reflects out of the field?
That's correct.
There's no danger if a kid's going to catch a pop fly or something and they happen to bring it right underneath it, they turn, they look up. I mean, it's not so bright that at night it could potentially, with all that light coming from that, that one fixture that you're be pointing down on, I'm assuming you got to test this.
Yeah, so everything complies with what we call IS standards, that's the Illumination Engineering Society, so we design based off that. Your concept engineer required to go one step above at IEA. So in terms of spilling glare, more so glare safety and what you're getting at, we have a system that's called patent technology for ball trackers for area sports like softball, football, and baseball. So in that element, when we have to get our down fixtures, a certain amount of light down that field, we don't want that light to be too bright or we cannot see the ball. So we put a lower wattage fixture about 15 feet on the pole, shining up light, and that's part of ball track. So it's just providing just enough light for your player to track that ball throughout the whole length of the field.
Something you guys know before.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's been a long time coming. I look forward to it. I don't have any questions. So,
Steve?
So the maximum award, if you have to go double times or whatever, double, $34,000. So you're looking, using $600, 8 hours. I mean, it's not going to be a huge deal. So, I mean, we'll work with it. I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal. A little joke, can we get color lights too?
We have it.
There are color lights. I thought it was pretty funny. No, but just being a contractor for 35 years, phenomenal setup. The process that we've all gone through, I feel 100% confident that we'll be playing in the spring. We're thank you.
Yes.
I just want to check we hear now a lot of these that there's so many injuries with the turf. So is that, how is the safety with this compared to some other artificial turfs?
We have actually a bigger study done by Dr. Michael Myers from Idaho State University. He took data over 10 years from athletic trainers at multiple NCAA and high school campuses. He has data on where the injury occurred on the field, what the temperature was, what the weather was, what shoe the athlete was wearing, and was it a contact or non-contact injury. And I can send you that data. You probably want the executive summary because it's literally volumes of information that if you're not a doctor, I would probably get the first 2 pages and fall asleep. So the executive summary is what I can send to and the trail and the best thing I can do because it's statistically insignificant between injuries on natural grass and injuries on synthetic. And more so, this is a baseball, softball, multi-sport field. I don't care if you're playing football out there, unless you're playing PE football out there, but it's going to be similar to what you see with your stadium, but there's really not going to be a lot of contact with the sports.
Well, they'll probably have like boys lacrosse, which is.
Yeah, boys lacrosse is pretty violent actually. But typically what you'll see with boys lacrosse is concussions and not high ankle sprains or ACL.
The turf beats though will still pop up.
It'll still pop out, right? That's synthetic soil. So the problem with the old synthetic turf was it was basically a carpet.
Right.
And there was something called foot lock, so your foot would get stuck, your body would go one way, your knee would go the other. With this, because there's synthetic soil in there, that infill material is washed out of the way from your cleat and enable you to slide out of it. Very similar to natural grass.
All right, thank you.
So it's not Veterans Day.
It's not Veterans Day.
But so, and Dr. Gallagher, we're also going to be able to have our marching band use this field too, right?
I wanted to point that out, so thank you. Yeah, for pointing that out. Marching band will be used for practice too.
Because they need the extra space.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, just want to point out something real quick. The warranty is huge because on our stadium, we do not have Moscow, and we don't have that warranty. And annually, we have to have it go out and clean and replace bulbs and everything. That usually costs us multiple thousands of dollars. Now, these fixtures shouldn't really be replaced, really be able to $25. But it's a yearly.
It's the data we have right now, 50,000 hours. So let's say we have to be using 50,000 hours. What you're not, the most we see for a typical public school district in all our control and monitoring data, and they go a range of 300 to 400 hours. Let's use for easy math. So after 1,000 hours, 50 years, the first 50,000 hours drops off by 10%. It would be very difficult to see when you walk out to the field that the fixture dropped off by 10%.
Yeah, so we won't be able to change bulbs every year on the SASD. So, and then also we won't have the light switch that we have. You can see we're at the county, it's on the trade. You won't see it, even a block away. Real quick, next steps, we are asking to move forward in the next meeting. I just want to give a timeline. It's free reference in there, showing the next dates. We talked about October, November, December. The approval is for I just wanted to show that, once again, with this decision, for the time, use all the other decisions for the financing, so the calendar.
Questions now from baseball. Is the infield, it looks like you gave us like a triple turf, so is the infield turf faster than the green turf?
Yes,
Is it
for
different?
the softball, it will be faster than
So is that the same deal with baseball field?
the baseball field is going to play, we're going to double play natural, and the reason we're doing that is because in the multi-sport environment, we can't have a shorter turf on the infield with a different infill than the outfield, because you're going to be, the players that are going to be using it for soccer practice or for lacrosse or field hockey are going to end up getting into that infield. So we have to keep the turf height the same and the infield material the same across the entire profile.
So the softball will have their infield, so it'll play more like real grass,
It's going to play.
but the baseball field will not. And under, if there's a site balance reserve now, or once you come in, where we were talking at one time, there's going to be excess fill that we're going to move to the backfield, you're saying the site down balance.
I believe so.
Okay, so then on that, and then, I believe the lights, but this doesn't include any bleachers, correct? Bleachers on this. Okay. That's all I have. And then, we discussed that we'll move this forward and then vote in the month, board meeting, so we approve this, so we can keep our timeline that hopefully that Mother Nature cooperates this winter, and we have this field ready for upcoming season. So we can move this forward. Okay. With that, we move the forward now. We move both forward lights and lights and field, but I think we have all the answers and answer questions, and then have last one questions of the public have any questions on this.
Yeah, so I appreciate the numbers on the turf end of it, but do we have even and I very much appreciate the rough question because that is going to apply. But do we have even a rough,
But the lights,
did we see any numbers on the lights?
The lights are $1 million.
Say again?
How many?
$1 million for the light system.
The whole thing?
Yes. Additional to the field.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else? Sorry.
You mentioned bleachers. None of the pictures show where any of the spectators are going to sit, and it's kind of tight along where the housing is and stuff like that in the road. So are we going to see a picture at some point with bleachers? Or?
So these fields are actually a little further back from where the end of the field where football was there. So the bleachers, those little bleacher stands they have now, they'll be something like that, similar size, not putting big grandstands or anything. They're actually further from the property line. There's actually quite a bit of room, so say the end of the baseball field, on the purpose field, is actually further from the property line than the end of the football field was before. So there's the drawings don't really look like it, there's actually a lot more room than we had before.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm not sure how turf fields work. Was there a need for expansion for stormwater containment?
The stormwater is included in this, and it is substantial.
So where is that? What's that look like?
That's under the field. Under the field.
That's what took over the last year, was to have all that stuff done, borings, perk tests, the whole 9 yards, to make sure the runoff is proper going into our system. So that's okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the amount of time this has taken. I'm the president of the Baseball Booster Club, and the ability to bring the team actually back to our high school so that the students can actually come and watch us after school is great. Having our kids have to drive every day, some of them just learn how to drive all the way over to another baseball field, reduces the risk of accidents and injuries. So I really applaud everybody working toward this. I'm going to ask a very technical question about the pitching mound. Is this a removable pitching mound or is this a permanent pitching mound?
Permanent.
Okay, and then from a landing space, is that sort of replaceable from on every 3 or so years to replace that landing strip?
So you actually get 8 replacements for that landing strip. And
I'm sorry, 8?
8, yes. You get 8 replacements. Typically, we find that after about 90 games, those areas need to be replaced. The battery boxes are also included. You get 8 replacements for the battery boxes, and you get 8 replacements for the catcher boxes.
Okay.
So that's a Velcro system that comes with it.
And second and third base, I guess it's just.
They typically don't wear as fast as the pitchers now.
Sure.
You notice the field markings cost was the same on baseball and softball fields?
Yes.
And I think the first one that was on one of the earlier slides was covered up assuming the booster or fundraising of some kind. How frequently will that need to be a cost that we incur to redo field markings?
We won't have to do that.
And what about the lights? I know compared to the football stadiums, we did big savings in terms of lights. Well, what do you estimate for fields this size if they had one event, one game, and what kind of electrical costs?
It's also dependent on what the local KW is and the usage. I always am transparent, and a lot of times people will say, oh, we got LEDs, we can pay for themselves sometimes. With the subtraction of game industry, to take those costs out, so we typically spending right now at your stadium, we see, say you use it like 250 hours a year, so anywhere from like a $30,000 to $50,000 savings over the life of the year.
So the new service you're bringing in, so you have like that, so it's basically a separate. So you can monitor electrical use very easily because it's coming off the service from the school.
It doesn't matter what service we come off of. The reason we come off the school because it was even more expensive to do that to go over the actual road in the parking lot. So we came along from the street.
Right. So but it's basically we have a separate meter that meter will tell us that we're using X amount of electricity per year just for the state, for that statement. So that helps it image that, and then, you can really monitor that. You might go out. Mr. Ball goes out there and takes a reading, before the game and after the game, and you can figure out how many kilowatts you use. So
there's interesting ways to do that in a control link app, when you're logging in on the mobile version or the desktop app. You can sort it by team, you can sort it by youth organizations, and see how much usage is being occurred by all your organizations and teams specifically. So it's a facility management system in terms of energy savings.
Sorry. You were first.
Thank you. First of all, Mrs. Wheeler, Dr. Gallagher, thank you for mentioning the marching band and making sure that was that they get some use out of that. I was just curious about the lining. So kind of piggybacking on his question. So the lines, they are permanent, correct? Okay. And what is that orange surface like? So I see like with I assume it's set up for like a soccer field primarily, but two of the corners closest to the.
You go back to on your one presentation, I think it's your slide.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm looking at the photo here.
Go back, all the way back into his. There you go.
Yeah. So what is that orange space around? Like, is that like
It's
a?
the warning track for baseball, so that the athlete knows they're getting close to the fence.
Okay. What kind of material would that be? Like similar
Same
to?
as the rest of it, it's synthetic turf.
Okay, so it's a turf. It's just colored differently. Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks for the presentation. Question, and I can for you, is what's the positive or negative impact on the operating budget for maintenance of the solar folks? I heard some extra costs, savings in here. What do you estimate the operational budget costs for the field?
I don't have that exact number in front of me right now, but one of the benefits is obviously we don't have to cut the grass, right? So, you know, the lack of custodians and the ability to get custodians right now, especially part-timers, is very, very hard. We've got shortages for multiple years now, so not cutting the grass is a savings in the district already. But also, with the grass fields, we have to line it, paint it, you know, every couple of weeks. So we don't have to do that anymore. Obviously, like I mentioned, all these lines are switching to the turf, so there's, as far as preparing for the game, it's minimal. You know, there's no dragging dirt, there's no, you know, some kind of grass or lines of field, so it's ready to play right away. So very minimal needs for maintenance they do have a grooming tool to groom the turf periodically, you know, just to keep it fluff and everything, maintain the usage and everything. But definitely significant as far as man hours for the facilities staff that I have to prepare fields.
Well, the school also pays to rent the court. Okay, so you gotta keep up, that's our, okay.
So my question is, I understand that where they're building up, that used to be the freshman football field, sorry. So my son's a freshman football player right now, and we're playing on that lower soccer field, which is absolutely terrible. So what's the plan for freshman football in this field? Like where will, and is there any plan to enhance that backfield?
There were plans to, in the future, we're studying out what we would do with that backfield. You know, because of the zoning that we're up against the fence. But we're looking into that. But the moment that the field is large enough for football also.
I can answer your question. Once we get this rolling, we gotta look at our schedule system, because by doing this and opening up this to multiple other teams during the fall, it will free up some space in the football field. Sometimes.
As far as your concerns with the football field, that's been shared with the coach and that's yeah. Is it just the location or is it the actual
Well,
place?
it's the location, like people for like games, for example, like handicap people have a hard time getting to the field. There's, the benches are wooden and falling apart. So, and the field itself is not very well maintained, and there's a lot of divots, so it's just, you know, afraid of players.
We will be addressing this with that dilemma.
Yeah, well, I said the bleachers were included in the plans. It looked like when they showed pictures of the dugouts, are they included?
Yes.
Earlier you mentioned that your company can communicate and test the lights. So whoever has the app on their phone, that if they're having an issue, can you still turn them off before they leave if they're having an issue with the app at night?
You could override and put it in manual and turn it on and off manually. Yeah. If they're having a technical issue on their phone, you can always call into control link, there's an 800 number, and there's someone there 24/7, 365.
But they won't be able to shut the lights off, they would have, the coach would have to do it manually, if you have an issue with the app.
Let me back up. When we commission a system, when we finish installing a system, we then go to the district and say, who do you want to have access to, and what are the schedules? Whether that's the facility director, or the AD director, or the coach, they will be able to grant access as an admin to say they can only call in and schedule, or they can schedule weeks in advance, special schedule, they can mail in the schedule. So there's different levels of security you can give to different users. But let's just say none of their controls are working for whatever reason, they still have a key switch on site to turn them on and off.
Thank you.
So,
I have a quick question. So the majority of that light greenery, is that still real grass?
Correct.
That still seems like a lot of maintenance.
What's that?
Still seems like a lot of maintenance and cutting. I don't really feel like we're cutting out a lot of expenses, as that gentleman mentioned. Are we really saving that much on cutting?
Well, it's cutting, but you're also looking at it that we're busting kids and we're maintaining the fields over time. So what you're seeing there is just our field, it's the old, like I said, professional football thing. Well,
We pay our maintenance guys,
the cut by grass already.
maintain that field.
Okay, so we're sending people somewhere else
Yes.
in addition to maintaining. So that's where, I'm just trying to understand where the cost savings is.
And also
from. We're still
paying the
cutting
line.
a chunk. Okay,
Right now, we're painting all the lines on that field
okay,
over there. Over there.
okay.
Is that it for the public? Okay, with that, we're moving forward and we are done for time. Thank you very much.
You don't have to, you don't have to duck, you're good.